Hello class and welcome to Multicultural Art Online. It's a little different than our normal and I'm going to miss seeing you in person in our class, but I'm just so glad that we have the technology to still kind of meet through this video and through our Google Classroom. So today's lesson takes us, well, actually, we're not going anywhere. We're staying in Brazil. If you remember, we were visiting Brazil last week, or not last week, but the week before, before our spring break. And we visited the Amazon rainforest and talked about some of the animals that live there. And we created we started to create our picture of the Toco toucan. Now my plan was originally that we would finish that painting since no one finished in our first class. So we were going to finish that painting and then do one more animal from the Amazon rainforest. But because we have different circumstances right now, we are going to take a break from that toucan painting and we're going to come back to it later. So this week we are still in Brazil, but we are going to travel out of the rainforest and we are going to come to the capital of Brazil. And the name of the capital of Brazil is Rio de Janeiro. Now, Brazil's capital is, there's something very famous and iconic that you may have seen before and I believe might have been in the video that I showed you a couple weeks ago. But that is a big statue called Christ the Redeemer. And it stands, not only is the statue itself very large, it stands on the very top of a tall mountain that overlooks the whole city. So you can see it from like almost anywhere in the city. And it kind of just has its arms spread and it's looking out onto the city. So it's very beautiful. It's actually considered one of the 7 wonders of the world. There was 7 ancient wonders of the world and now I think they've found 7 modern wonders of the world, and the Christ the Redeemer statue is one of them. So on our Google Classroom, I have added a couple different videos that I would like you to watch before you do the actual project. So if you haven't watched those videos yet, I'd like you to actually stop this video and watch those and then come back to us over here. Because there's one really good one where 2 little kids go on a tour of Rio de Janeiro and they visit Christ the Redeemer. And there's some really good info there that I want you to know before we do our project. So if you haven't done that, please do that now. Thanks. Okay, so now everyone's watched the video before they go on to the project. So we are going to make a sunset silhouetted image of the statue Christ the Redeemer. And to do so, we are going to need some art supplies. If there's anything in the list that I tell you right now that you do not have already at home, please let me know and I can try to get a kit set up to give to one of your parents from Hero. We have the supplies at Hero and we can let you borrow it. But I tried to make the art projects that we're going to do via online learning, I tried to keep the supplies pretty simple so that hopefully you have them all at home already. So the first thing that you need to do is go onto Google Classroom or have your parents do that, and you're going to be printing off this silhouette image. There's a file for them to print this off at home. Now if you don't have a printer, that's okay. You can still pull this up and you can look at the image so that you can use that and if you don't want to print it, you can do this either way. But you could look at this and use it as your reference and actually draw it freehand on your picture. But if you'd like to, you can also print it off and cut it out because we're going to use this in our image. So this is the Christ the Redeemer statue. You should recognize it from the video that you watched. And also I'm going to put some images just to look at on Google Classrooms as well, especially some ones of some pretty sunsets because that's what we're going to be creating today is a silhouetted sunset image of the statue. So what you need is this, either online or printed out. And you're going to need a glue stick, if you are printing out the image. If you are just drawing it, you don't need the glue stick. You will need some colored pencils, and you'll need a piece of paper. I am using a little bit of a thicker piece of paper, but you can use printer paper. If your parents have some just computer printer paper, you can use that too. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to create the background first, and then we're going to have our statue be in the foreground. This is going to be kind of similar to that image we made when we were studying London, and we made the skyline image. If you remember that one, it was black and white and silhouetted like this. So silhouette is an art term that we use to talk about when light is shining from behind something. Our eyes see it as a dark shape that seems flat. We don't see the details. We just see the contour outline. So this is going to be a contour drawing if you're drawing it, or if you're going to cut it out, it will be a contour shape that's flat. We don't see shading or a lot of details, we just see the outline. Now, because we want it to be outlined, that means that our background is going to be pretty bright and colorful. So we're actually going to start by figuring out what colors you want to put in your sky. And generally with a sunset, I think we maybe talked about this before, but you want to have your yellow towards the bottom, towards the horizon line. Oh, just a minute. Okay, I had to take an extended break right there to deal with a family thing. So I'm going to try to start where I left off. So we are going to be making the background into a sunset, and then we're going to be making the foreground into the like a mountain where the statue is going to sit on. So it will be a dark silhouette for the mountain as well. So when we do a sunset, we want to start at the very top with our cooler colors. So there's going to be just a little bit of blue and purple, and then we're going to transition down into the oranges and the reds, and then finally at the very bottom the lightest yellows, because that's where the sun is going to be. So that will be the brightest and lightest. So I am going to switch my camera so that you can see my drawing, and I'm going to work on coloring the sunset, and I'm using colored pencils. I encourage you to use whatever you have at home available. Even if you'd like, you can add some multimedia. So I'm going to start with colored pencils, and then I might even add some interesting collage to mine. If you don't have collage materials, don't worry about it. But if you do have any scraps of colored paper, construction paper, magazines that you can cut out of, that might give some interest and some texture to our work. So I'm going to start with colored pencils and pretty much do the whole thing with colored pencils, and then I will show you how you can add some collage elements to it as well. All right, so again, I'm going to start with just my dark sky colors because it's going to be nighttime. So the sun is going down and night is falling. Twilight is coming. So the very top of my page, there's going to be some blues and purples. If you have watercolor paints and you want to watercolor this, you can feel free to do that. This is kind of how whatever you have materials available to you, go ahead and use. So at this point, we're just kind of coloring together. I might turn this off. You can see better maybe. Can you see my blue better now? I'm going to keep recording this, but I'll speed it up and probably stop and start it. So I'm gonna stop and start it so it won't be such a long video. And you can also pause or fast forward as you need as you follow along. Okay, so you can see that I have finished my sunset colors on my paper with my not oil pastels, but my color pencils. So I have my cool colors up here, and I have some oranges and some pinks and then yellows down here, and I even left a little bit white to show the really bright sun. So now I'm going to actually look through some of my magazines and see if I can find some colors that match my sunset colors, so I can add some texture and some interest to my background before I put my statue on there. Alright. So you can see that I have taken a bunch of different colors from magazines that I found that kind of match what I already colored with the color pencil. And I've torn strips from them and glued them onto my picture. And now I've got some more texture going on, a little bit more interest, and it's kind of fun. I am all done with my art project. I have added color using torn pieces from magazines, and then I have created a dark silhouette of the mountain that the Christ the Redeemer statue stands on. So I decided to leave a little bit of white around my statue when I cut it out, just to help it stand out from the background, because we've made the background a little bit more busy now with all of those pieces cut out from magazines. And again, you don't have to do the magazine cutout if you don't have those materials available. You can just use either colored pencils or watercolor paint or oil pastels if you have them to create your sunset background. So that is our Christ the Redeemer statue overlooking Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And I look forward to seeing your projects. I'm hoping that your parents can either take a picture and upload them to Google Classrooms, or they can email them right directly to me, and that would be just fine as well. All right, thanks, boys and girls. I miss you. Bye-bye.